the very, very interesting point is that you don't know where your next opportunity is going to come from.
That's it.
That is why you have to have as many irons in the fire as you possibly can. That is why you have to network with as many people. And that is why everybody should remember you as wonderful to work with.
In the room, 52 Jokers Wild. No, there we're on it because, like, I don't know. I think you might be a writer among. You've got so many hats on these days, Steve. And every time I look up, you're acting in it. You've wrote the damn thing. You're producing it. You're directing it. You're doing location. Actually, I think you're asking for a farm in Wicklow for someone else at the moment. But I mean, you're out there.
Multi-hyphenated is the word, isn't it?
There you go.
That's the one they're throwing around quite a bit.
The great thing that we like is, and it's actually following on from a conversation with CJ Wally the other day, and he says writers have to step out of the drawer because if you can stay in there and hope someone comes along and makes your film or does so, but if you want to be proactive rather than reactive, you've got to step out of the drawer. You've got to start promoting yourself. Actually, beyond that, you've got to start finding this other production team, these other people. You've got to go play and work with them to to increase your chances of getting yours done. You know, and what I am evidencing, and I'm not usually on Facebook and places like that, but you're creeping in front of me and you're all over the shop. I don't know whether I have you on stalk, follow or something, but you're there. I think you've done about 3 or 4 shorts in the last 3 days. So tell us about that for a second.
Yeah, 100% agree with you, what CJ said. It's like I was a writer for 10 years and no one cares about you. When you're a writer, no one seems to notice you. And all of a sudden you start directing things and everyone's like, add me as friends on Facebook and everyone's like, oh, can I be in this film? Can I be in that film? I send you my reel, send you my CV. And you're like, what is happening? No one cared about me when I was just a writer, And it's that thing that, like, you just have to, when you're just a writer, it's so much harder to get recognized. When you step out of that and you start doing direct and everything else, it just seems to be that then people start caring. They're like, okay, who's this?
How did you meet now? How did you meet Ronika and Stephen?
Well, I met Stephen on a set. Before I met Stephen, I was on another set called Here They Come, and it's a new film that I'm doing. And then I was working with a girl on there called Dana, and she was doing sound. And she was like, I'd love for you to be in my next film. And I was like, yeah, sure. Like, give me the details, whatever. So then I went on to set and Stephen was there. Stephen was the writer. It was one of his first short films he wrote. And we were just talking and we really hit it off. And he was like, I have a new film called Behind the Mask and I'd love you to be in it. And I was like, okay, that's fine. Yeah. So he sent it on to me and we were on set and we were just talking. And then I was doing a few more films with him. And I found that sometimes when I look at people when they're acting or directing, in my mind, I'm like, I'd love it if we done it this way or add this, whatever. So I just suggested like something to him and he was like, oh, that's really good, Sinead, actually. So then he was like, do you want to direct with me? And then I was like, yeah, sure. So we directed a few things together and we started writing together. And that's how we became like super close. So that's how we met. And then on the set of Forever, Ronika had appeared and she came up because she was just in Bray at the time. And I met her there. And then I texted her the next day and I was like, it was so nice meeting you. And she's like, oh my God, I didn't even realize that was you. And we started talking and then I got cast in some of her stuff. And then I ended up directing When You Did, which is her new short film that we done together.
I tend to write for the kind of the 24 to 40 kind of bracket.
They don't read. Well, yeah, no, they're watching a film. I forgot.
No, it's a film. It's not a novel. Go write a novel.
He's writing.
This is a visual medium.
I was thinking the novella, sorry, I just said.
No, and I don't write that kind of romance. I don't write the kind of the cheesy.
So hold on a second. You honestly think there's a bunch of 24-year-old, 30-year-old Irish going out there watching a romantic movie?
That's what I said. I don't write the typical
right. Is
kind
it
of
in
romance.
manga style? Is what drama, we want to know because that might make a bit more sense.
That's like I tend to write stories that are very grounded in reality, and that's why most of my stuff doesn't actually have happy endings or not happy endings in the kind of cheesy, typical sense.
Well, it does have an audience. This is back to the maths, the accountant can't help it.
Yeah.
So you're writing for an audience of a market size that will go watch this, that's going to raise finance, get the thing made. They're out there watching this. We know from Stephen Fellows or Follows, whatever his fucking name is.
Fellows,
the statistics say, horror zombie might win. Indie production, drama, romance could be down the other end of the cube of not getting payback. I don't see it up where the green and red was. There was a bloodbath this side of indie, and the only thing that was actually, if it's a zombie horror, dramatic romance between, a vampire and a zombie, it might fall back into that indie curve. But the great thing about it is you're getting paid because you're being commissioned. But if you were producing, that's a different story to get paid to get to the end market.
Now, the thing is, I fall into a very lucky category of most of the big players. So RTE, Virgin, all of them. They don't do genre.
Right.
So
yes, okay.
They tend not to fund horror. They tend not to fund sci-fi. They tend to fund heavy hitting drama that can go on RTE.
Hence, don't. And she says, hence, cut out the bit where I'm cursing about the national broadcaster. Right. Yeah. She's one of those darling children that meet all the criteria.
I don't want to go back to that. To a certain life that other people do it, so you must do it, or everyone has done it for the last couple of hundred years, and not everybody can be. Not everybody can be like I have very little interest in sports. I have very little interest in sports. But if you
join the club, except it's not a sports club, it's an anti-sports club.
But growing up in certain places, like if you weren't into football, if you weren't into watching guys run around after other guys on the football field, you were weird. If you didn't go to the
pub,
or
you became an actor. Yes,
if you weren't into going to the pub and watching a TV screen and shouting and roaring at men, following other men on the football field, you were weird. But for me, it's like, I suppose it's trying to realize that you can't be
all things to all.
Yeah, I mean. I feel like saying that I'm not into sport, but like it's okay to be that.
The one problem you're having here, Aidan, is you keep on going to football matches, you keep on going to fucking pubs with sports clubs and sports TV and expecting to be part of the crew.
No,
you just need to move pubs.
I used to pretend to be interested in that, but now it's like,
You're obviously in Hollywood or in that sort of area now, and you're obviously getting work. What made you change from being in Ireland and go to Hollywood? Or was it just chance?
No, I always dreamed of, like, even whenever I was a kid, of being in America, in Hollywood. And I went to college in New York in the American Academy of Dramatic Arts when I was doing acting. Still do some acting, but I ended up on the other side of the camera producing stuff an awful lot more. But like, I think in many respects, like for an Irish actor at the time, you kind of there wasn't enough work in Ireland. Productions were only starting to come into Ireland. Like if you remember, John Huston was actually the person responsible for helping Irish Film Board be set up in the first place. So thanks, John Huston. And like you kind of really only had a choice of going to the UK. And being from Belfast, it's kind of like, I'm not really a UK bird. So it's sort of like, all right, let's jump in the deep end and see how it goes. And I was lucky enough to get, a start in Ireland. And then because I'd already been in the States and lived away for quite a while, it wasn't as daunting as it would have been had I've never been in the States before, trained in the States. But like the approach to acting is very different. It seemed more like a challenge, and I just find the fact that, the landscape is stunning, the attitude is very different over here. So it was just more of the right vibe for me. I wasn't sure now how LA was going to be in comparison to New York. And I mean, like night and day. Right. So like LA is kind of like a city that will bring you, it'll bring you to your knees in many respects. You'll learn like what you're made of over here. And New York is a lot more overtly aggressive. Like one thing I love about New York is like, they'll tell you to get stuffed to your face. And in LA, it's like, we'll call you.
So one of the things that we started to do, which may also help, is that on your next short, which may also have no budget, use the likes of Beck2 rates, work out what everybody's rate is, and actually come to terms with them that effectively you've invested into my project your time, which is worth this amount of money. What then starts to happen is you then start to take it seriously. That's the difference. You then start to say, well, actually, this is the value that I've now put into this film. We need to somewhere along the line try and get the value back, either by getting this into winning awards in some form or fashion, or trying to get work that pays for these other people to then move on. And that becomes a very useful way of looking at things. So but without losing what you've done in the current approach, because you're actually helping nurturing people into those roles and helping them build up their confidence that, yes, I can do this. And there is no difference between what I'm doing here when I'm helping somebody else to what I'm actually doing when I'm actually getting paid for it. And I think those people that then do pay for their skills, which may be a little bit later on, they'll appreciate these people know what they're talking about, and they are actually being more professional than the ones that claim to be professional at times. That was just a few thoughts coming from.
I'm going to swing back around on the same thing again. And not be funny or anything else. Yeah. No, the great thing was you're saying you found these other extras. They're only extras. They're aspiring actors or thespians or somewhere in between. They're extras because they're on set. They've actually, I'm an extra and I've never been on set. So, I mean, I'm on the list. I haven't even got to turn up to be an extra to get to go on the journey of maybe being an actor. No, I'm not really on that journey, but I know there's an awful lot of people out there that done the drama classes, done the spotlight school of dancing and backflipping and whatever else you might need to do. But it's up to someone else to choose them, because they'll pick them from a reel and go, this is how, in my mind's eye, they fit this role, they fit that look, they fit. So the decision is someone else's decision. The great thing, it still was your decision in this case, but you were going, it wasn't based on what you did in the past. It was based on your present and future potential. And you saw that and you gave them the opportunity. And that's the language that we're loving, because that's where we are. We're going, no one's going to give us a job. I wouldn't give me a job after seeing my own CV. So therefore, but do they believe in the passion? Do they believe in the vision? Do they believe in the potential? That's the story you want to pitch. And therefore, with your scripts, with your stories, with your actors, and with your team, it's to pitch that believable journey. And you're going to see, you want people to see in you what you see in them. And but you have to be seen for that to be seen, potentially seen and understood. Yeah. Completely. And there's a lot of people out there.
Oh, totally. Yeah. And not even they're not even all just extras. A few of them have been in stuff, but I think to have so many more opportunities, I think it's strange. Sandra and Richard that I had in Forever, they were brilliant. They've been in a lot of short films and stuff like that. Like I said, Sandra was in The Lobster Common Fire and everything. They were so good. They were just so good. I would have them again in another film if I had a role for them.
No, you can't. No, you have to get some other newbies, because then everything will be the same actors will be appearing everywhere.
Yeah. But no, I mean, I suppose you need to edit the bit out where I said I didn't take them serious. No, what I meant was budget-wise, they're not the three films are really small scale. Behind the Mask was shot basically on the one floor. Forever was shot on the same spot in Bray. Shark Teeth was basically shot here in my own apartment. And the other one that we have this Sunday, Drink Up, is shot in my apartment. So they're very small budget,
You know what, Stephen? I'm going to use the language we're using the last couple of ones. I'm going to stick to this, going forward anyway. You're a guerrilla. That's what you are. You're guerrilla marketing. You're guerrilla filmmaking. You're an indie guerrilla. You're going, I'm not one location, half a location. That's what I can do. An actor, don't even need them. I just look out the window. We'll take a couple of birds and we start doing some mime. No, the great thing is you're starting on the minimum location, the minimum number of actors, the minimum amount of moving parts to create a story that has meaning.
I love the idea of structure. I love the idea of the way that things get formed. And one of the things that I've been looking at, because we were talking about the Greek thing, was I started reading Plato's Republic. And one of the things I started realizing, if I want to make a really good sci-fi movie,
George is reading Plato's Republic. I'm watching Mr. Ben,
and I got Aristotle as well. Yes, but you suddenly find that when you start to read,
I got Tom and Jerry.
Texts,
I don't know. That's as good as I'm going to get. My side.
But the great thing about it is when you start to understand how things are designed, even from the very beginning, and you begin to understand about societies and how they get framed and how you get framed within it, then you can suddenly start to look at a character set in contemporary time who suddenly discovers that everything they thought they knew was right turns out to be a lie because they've been formed in a construct.
Yes.
Right, that's the Matrix. We're back again.
That's right. We're back into the Matrix. That's what I'm trying to talk about. Because one of the things is you start to look at when Plato started talking about how do you build a city, he was starting to put those constructs on all these people. Then if you suddenly find that what's happened is it's gone out of all over the place, and you suddenly find that there are characters trying to live their life, because if you read 1984, that's what 1984 is about, because you've got Winston Smith suddenly discovering he wants to rebel. And what's he doing? He writes a journal. And he tries to hide it from the TV. And then we're sitting there kind of going, I've got all these TVs around me. Now they're listening to me. George, now they're telling me what I should be thinking about.
The weird thing is, someone's going off to rebel and writes a journal. Rebellion in my day, it's actually, we go back to CJ and go, script revolution, a little bit of rebellion. It's going to go against the system.
But I think that's still important.
Not Citizen Kane, Citizen Smith. So that's where we are. It's first against the wall.
Hang on a second there, Garvin.
Then we do nothing about it.
Garvin, we're talking about Winston Smith.
Yeah, I don't care about Winston Smith.
No,
I'm talking about
the
Citizen Smith.
But he was the Citizen Smith that they were trying to deal with.
First
and I bet you
wall,
that's where all the ideas came from.
We go. We talk a big talk. We walk. We don't. We sometimes don't walk the walk. We open our journal. We make plans to conquer the world, and we put it in the drawer. The whole point is we're back to what we said at the very, very beginning. They got to get out and do. They got to stop writing about it and start actually putting it into action. Now again, so that type of thing, but. That's also doing it in your case because
if there are writers, what we're trying to do here is the writers, if they understand the form that they're trying to do, which is a construct as well, because I'm coming from an editor's perspective. Once you understand what needs to be constructed, then you can go out and do. And if you don't understand that, then you can't do the doing bit. You can't do the bit where we need to break it down into a script.
You might be able to do the doing, but the doing won't do much.
That's right.
And bears do in the woods? Or does a tree fall?
I agree 100%. There should always be a little bit of structure, but I don't agree with it being formulaic. So especially as writers, I don't think if you stick to Save the Cat is great and all, but you cannot limit yourself to a formula.
Hold on a second. Did you not write a bloody book called Script Hustling? And here's the book in the ABC on how to do it.
There's not one mention in there on how to write a script. I expect you to already know how to write a script.
What's the book about?
Right.
What to do when you've written the script.
Now, one of the things that that's really good. But coming from an editor's perspective,
go out and do the do-do.
Yeah. One of the problems with editing, which is where you have to finish up with the film in the end, is that you normally have time constraints that you're working with. Now, if you're working in cinema, sometimes that varies. But if you're on a TV show, you normally have 43 minutes to tell your story, because 43 minutes in the hour will allow them to have their commercials in the beginning, middle, and end. And you only get 43 minutes. So you've got to tell your story in some kind of structure so that by the time it gets to the ad break, there's a cliffhanger or there's a few other cliffhangers so that people will then carry on watching it at the other end. So there are conventions that you still need to, you're still stuck between those signposts.
Yes.
But what happens between them is really up to the writer. As long as you hit that mark, there's the in point and the out
what's
point.
Interesting there, George, is you're saying you're stuck between signposts. You're not. You're stuck between adverts. Actually, you're writing for adverts.
Yes, you are. That is why streaming is so amazing, because all of that goes away. Even if it is a serial, if it's serialized, made for TV content, ad breaks don't exist on Netflix.
At the moment.
And an episode can be 33 minutes or 40 minutes, and it doesn't matter. And that is why streaming, I think, has become such a disruptor.
No, I think the construct within that is going back to the old way, because I've noticed that there are a lot of channels now opening up free if you watch the adverts. So they're trying to, because like the internet was open and free 20 years ago, and you could look for anything you wanted, but they've now commercialized it. And although at the moment, and it may take 20 years, I don't know, but at some point they'll commercialize it to such a point that those constructs will be back in there. So we still have to be aware of that. Otherwise, when you make your film today, what will happen is they'll come along and say, oh, it doesn't quite fit. We're going to have to chuck this bit out, and this bit to make it fit our frame, if you like.
Therefore, where are we in the wrong roles?
But see, the thing is, Garvin, I think what it is I think what happens is, okay, I remember school, and in school, you're kind of conditioned. I remember being told at 18, before the leaving cert, before the big final year exam, before you leave high school, secondary school, grammar school, whatever, you need to do your best leaving cert to get the best marks. Otherwise, your life won't be what it could have been. But I think people don't get the chance to do what they want to do because they're told at 18, get an apprenticeship, go to college, and then get the mortgage. Then the first girl you ever looked at, go out with her, and then get married, get a mortgage, tied into a pension and a job until you're 70. And then at 70, your house paid off, and then you get to sit around for 10 years and look at the house you paid off.
Yeah.
And I mean, but so when I say it's not for me, I'm not knocking people who do that. But if you're going to do that, as long as it's what you really want to do. But otherwise, you're just going to be like miserable or pretending that everything's okay. And that's acting. And that's a form of acting I don't want to do.
Now, hold on a second. Did you just say in the same sentence, you're acting that, miserable, but it's okay? Or you're actually elated and happy, and it's not okay because you don't have your pension, you don't have your wife and 2.3 kids. What is it you want? Is it, okay, you may not have X, Y, and Z at the moment, but were you meant to have? Did you want it, or did it just turn out that way?
I think it just turned out that way. But I don't know. I mean, people say, do you want to get married? Do you want to have kids? I wouldn't.
I mean, Jesus, did you tell me there's a bunch of women come up to you and going, do you want to get married? Do you want to have kids? Swipe left quickly.
Let me tell you something. Okay, I was on a first date one time in Dublin. First date.
I watched that program now. What you have for dinner?
First date. It was a first date, and a 1.5 drinks. And the girl, who was a very well professional lady, she was very smart, and she started to
obviously not. She's dating you. Yes, sir.
She asked me, did I want to have kids, and how many? And I thought she was joking, so of course I said yes. I'd like to have about maybe 6.5, not 2.5. I want 6.5. Makes no sense. I just said it as a joke, thinking she was joking, but she was serious. And I think some people out there have a checklist in their brain. When they meet you, they go, right, okay, who's George? Can you advance my career? No. Okay. Oh, hi, Garvin. How's it going? Yeah. Other people, they seem to have a checklist about what they're supposed to, or their condition.
Okay, I'm sticking with this one, Aidan. What's your checklist?
Oh, do you have one? Do you need one? I mean, being in the moment means that sometimes you don't need to.
You're improving. You're on the fly. That's another show. Okay.
Checklist. I want to be a working actor and working comedian, voiceover, healthy as much as I can, hopefully not be too boring to people, halfway interested to talk to, and stay out of jail, stay out of hospital, and pay my taxes.
That's cutting down an awful lot of venues with a captured audience, so because you're doing 95 different things, you're going wide, not deep. Now, you could be going wide and deep in the sense of if you're a bloody expert and all, then you're really going to piss me off. That means, because that's it. You're just too good at everything. But you got to, if I had to shoot you and you're going to go, right, you can only pick only one, and you got to go deep, not wide, give it your all, which one?
Oh, God. If you had to remove one from me.
No, you're only getting one. You're
only getting one.
You can bake. You can be baking for the Queen, or you can be directing for Hollywood, God knows what. But you could be acting in front. You could be in front of the camera. You've got to pick the one. Are you in front? Are you behind? Are you doing the catering? Are you making the SFX?
Well, I'm going to let Sinead answer that question, and then I'm going to come back afterwards and explain why that is not possible. But carry on. Yeah, just choose one particular thing that you really love to do.
Acting.
Right, you're in front of the camera.
Without a doubt, not even a question about it.
Yeah, and that's actually because we all are finding that we have to act through life, and that's an interesting thing. And playing different parts and different roles, depending on, it doesn't matter what the medium is quite an exciting thing. So that's pretty good. Now, this is where we come back to. Tell us why you're finding that you're having to be multi-hyphenated as opposed to being focused on that one particular area.
Well, nowadays it's very hard for people to break out in acting. So I'm not the kind of person that would be like, okay, I'm going to sit around now until the next acting gig comes along. I'm like, okay, what else can I do to help not just push my name out there, but just to do more things and develop more skills? That was another thing I learned when I went to Bow Street was develop as many skills as you can, because if you learn to be a baker, then when you're in a movie and you have to be a baker, you can relate to it. You don't have to just pretend, okay, I'm going to pretend to be a baker now. You know how to do it. Yes. You have those life skills. Same with directing, although I absolutely love it and I love acting as well. If I was to ever have to play a director in a film, I know how to do that now. Stunt coordinator, I know how to do that now, all that kind of stuff. And I can put that and push that into my acting. And it gives me not just those skills, but life skills to help me just develop as a person. I
think I saw an article there the other day, and George might remember we were talking about. So we touched on the fact, you know, it's good to go wide and understand everyone's roles. But after that, you got to pick your SME, your subject matter expertise. So if you were picking one thing.
One of the most in-demand areas of film at the moment are writer-directors. So like people would be like studying directing, or like, I mean, is that really something you can study per se? Like you need to be making films to be a director. But like actors that are now creating their own shows. Like look at the Phoebe Walker-Wallace, I think it is, from Fleabag, Claire Dunn from Ireland, who just won the European Shooting Star Award.
Garvin Burke with all his projects he's been shooting.
So
one of these years,
good content, but they also need, you know, the taste maker of that project. You can't defer certain decisions to everybody. And also, like, just because a project has money doesn't mean that it's any good. Like,
absolutely.
For that, you know.
But we keep talking about the Blair Witch. The Blair Witch, when they made it with nothing, turned into something really good. And as soon as they were given a budget, they couldn't work with it. They didn't know how to make the movie. It all flopped.
And then everyone else keeps on promising Blair Witch, and they can't.
But that happens quite often. Like there are some of the best cinema moments are happy accidents because they didn't actually have a budget and they had to come up with, like, even some of the best solutions. People are CGing everything now. Part of that is insurance reasons, but also like practical effects. Like they were making their own effects. They were doing blood explosions and they're brilliant. Like now a lot of the time they get the financing on the second project because the first project made so much money. And so many people just look at this industry as a job. There's a difference between the artists in the industry and the actual gigging people.
What are you?
I'm still making up my mind.
I mean, I find it fascinating because as someone that's been a teacher, a lecturer, and I've taught, I'm getting into counseling at the moment, as in the counselor. What I'm finding is everybody's telling their story and you're trying to get them to act out certain parts and put into action their words in some form. So I'm sort of started to take a different view of what actors are really all about. That it's not Garvin's view of the actor. It's basically there's a task that has to be achieved within a certain scene or within a whole story. And you're seeing how that person actually navigates the problems they're having to get to the end
on a
of the
journey.
Scene, to see if
but also you want to empathize with them and not necessarily like them, but empathize with them, that kind of thing. But if you don't, then you're not going to care.
Absolutely, which is why in some of the film script writing story ideas, there's that if the villain comes in and then goes and saves the cat, which is actually the story.
Even cheering the psycho killer who's killed a whole bunch of humans, but saved the cat.
And then
well done. The cat. Oh, wait a second, he's killing that man. Oh, yeah. Yeah,
go back and
it's a bit like John Wick, wasn't it? That was what set John Wick
on his journey
to
No, Loki. The one you want to be doing here now is Loki not the bad guy, and now all of a sudden he has his own show, and he's actually, my daughter loves Loki from day one. So it's the characterization. We touched on this, and I like Darth Vader. He was the bad guy, but then he turned out to be a good guy. So I don't know. I didn't know it about 9 episodes in. But the thing here is you played a role well. You looked well, played a role well. You liked the acting because you engaged with the fear or the emotion or whatever else. But it wasn't a dull, dud character, type of. Actually, I think a show that might be newly coming back, I don't know if it's a repeat, but Dexter revisited or revamped, which is the mass murderer good guy. It's this crossover of good and bad.
Exactly. It's kind of like saying like bad people sometimes can do good things.
Yes.
And good people can sometimes do bad things. So it's kind of like, what? It's like there's like a grey area.
If you're an actor, which one were you?
I like to think I do mostly good things.
In the directing side of things, which is quite interesting because you're an actor and you're working with people and you're getting ideas. Are you going into the psychology of the way that a character may actually work for motivation and things like that? Tell us a little bit about that process that you would use.
Oh, 1000%. Even when I'm acting myself, I have a routine that I do. I'll deep dive into that character, try completely get into their head. I'll have a different playlist for each character. So I'm listening to that on set, getting into it, a certain costume that they might wear, a certain scent that they might wear. So a perfume, anything it can bring it on, all that kind of stuff. That's what I'll try to do, like get into them, because I feel the only way you can properly show the emotions of that character is if you're in their head.
Yeah,
like
absolutely.
Some people find when they get upset, they don't cry, they laugh. But certain characters, they react differently. So I'll get into that kind of headspace, because although sometimes if I get upset, I might not cry, that person might. So I need to get in there and start feeling it.
So do you pinch yourself every now and again, bring those little watery tears to your eye?
I haven't yet. No, I listen to sad songs. That might help sometimes.
Oh, right. Okay.
You know the song at the beginning of Up? Oh, that gets me every time. The Disney film.
I'm trying to. No, I can't remember. I'd be in trouble if I actually did remember that, because
that's the one with the old fellow with the balloons, isn't it?
Yeah.
Isn't that up?
Yeah.
Not the song, George. Though the old fellow. Don't remember the song being called "The Old Fellow with the Balloons."
No, that's the film.
Number 3 on Spotify there now. The Old Fellow with the Balloons. Yeah,
love it.
Sorry, watch out for him in the park now. Keep him away from your kids. But it's what's interesting here is, I said you're going wide. You're networking, you're Ireland. We've talked to a few people before. Ireland is small enough that you can, as you said, you can get them. There's stuff going on. You're in a bunch of shorts, you're in a bunch of features, you're on a bunch of podcasts. And it's not that there's no work that you couldn't get involved with. There's plenty of it going on out there for people to interact with. And strange enough, I'm unaware of all this. Therefore, I think there's nothing going on, because there's nothing outside my front window. So, I think I'm going to have to reach out more and get more involved. And I think I've said this to George in the sense of this year is about getting more involved with the local industry in things that are going on. And it's just help out a little bit here. It's not to go work like a lunatic. It's just, you can be there, you can be involved to a little bit or a bigger bit according to your appetite. But the one thing there is you've got to be involved in order to network, in order to get the future work. So you're doing it in spades at the moment, in the sense of you're networking like a lunatic. You're out there, you're everywhere. You're not the elusive pimper now. We can seek you here, we can seek you there. The thing is, we keep on finding you everywhere. So it's brilliant to see you out there, and you're putting us to shame. You're putting me to shame. I don't know about him.
Like that's how, like, even with connecting, when I was on the set of Here They Come, I got 2 different things from that. I ended up doing the signal with Dana and Stephen, and then I also connected with one of my co-stars, Shannon, and that's how I ended up doing the makeup on Deadweight. So you never know what's going to come out of every opportunity.
No, I'm going to be terrible. I'm going to be terrible because George made me do this. I was going to try and avoid it, but the one thing here is I'm going to say, no, you're investing in yourself. You're investing, because I know there's no money. You're not getting paid for any of that, I don't think. Or are you? Am I making that mistake?
In some things I am. I know, like, some people, when they go into acting, they have this big idea in their head that, everything you need to get paid for. Or some people look down on people that are doing films that have no budget or no pay. And they're like, well, why are you doing it if you're not getting paid? It's not the point of, you should never go into a certain field that you love so much and only go into it because you're getting paid or not. It's about filmmaking, making connections, and you do it because you love doing it.
I'm an artist in other areas. I know from hopping around departments and things, certain things like I just don't want to do. Like I've done DIT on projects and stuff, and I just get frustrated sitting there transferring files. I like.
Yes, Garvin.
You can do it. You don't meant to do it. That's it.
I like it, but it needs to be done, you know.
Yeah, absolutely.
No, but you don't need to do it. That's back to budget. If the budget was there, they can do it. Yeah.
Well, there's an awful lot of automation there that does it while you're not looking as well. If you're on a budget, you know, you can be the director and still, you know, have Shot Put Pro and, you know, checklists and some checks, and they're being delivered to your phone while that's all offloading onto, you know.
Yeah.
So is there a passion project, arty farty creative in there that has it. Because we asked this question of a bunch of other women we spoke to.
I'm still getting Garvin to try and come up with his arty party project.
What's the one in the handbag? If you not sexist otherwise. I have my man bag. I'm just saying it's in there. It's a passion project. If someone we don't know how much it is. Someone was 10 million, 15 million, and the reason they couldn't do it was an unattainable, budget, therefore couldn't be done. Have you got something you could do that you need to do before you die?
Yeah, but see, the thing is, that's every project I work on, because I'm not going to work on it if I'm not passionate about it.
Yeah.
So they're just.
Good answer.
I'm at the point in my career where I'm like, oh, okay, you're throwing up money at me. I don't care. I'll take it. Obviously,
I can spend that, no problem. Yeah.
But there's a writer that I'm working with at the moment. He had stuff. We did a short a while ago. We were catching up last week, and one of his scripts was on the blacklist, and he was invited by he's a great young writer. And he wants to turn one of the projects that we did a short on into a feature film. And one of the actors is from Denmark, one of the actors is from here. There's a project that I'm shooting in March that's by a young British writer. She's in it as well as an actor. She was in The Theory of Everything, and I've got an American actor.
My question would be, is that $1 million, is it 5 million, 10, 50? What is it?
I'd love to do a TV series. Well, right. I'd love to do a feature film on the Táin, but told from Queen Maeve's perspective. Because much of our Irish legends are actually translated by men, historically have been written by men. But Ireland was a matriarchal society. It certainly wasn't a male-driven society. So there's so many things that have been lost in translation. Like Queen Maeve it was all about her ego. But when you look at how society worked back then, that's actually not what it's about at all.
So we're trying to get some Celtic superheroes, is it?
No, not super. They're not superheroes.
Well, they could be DC. Just
like Game of Thrones ripped so many things out of the Irish legends. I was talking to an executive at Legendary Films recently, and they have people that are specifically studying cultures and their national legends, and they're stealing cultures, national legends to put into Hollywood movies. It's like, I'd love to see some Irish legends. And it's big budget stuff, but we can see from the Game of Thrones that we actually have the crews and the talent. And Stephen St. Ledger, who's an amazing Irish director who does fantastic action. He was doing stuff on the Vikings. I think he's just finished directing a couple of movies. There is a way to do that, but I do think in many respects, some Irish film has been caught up in a certain genre of telling an Irish story, and there's a much wider scope.
Right. So that we want Celtic mysticism to go kick ass.
Considering what the marketplace is, and the fact that if we have a film board that's representing Ireland, Ireland is far more than. Don't get me wrong, the films that have come out of Ireland based on the famine and based on other things, are absolutely phenomenal films. Iraq is phenomenal, but I'd love to see some serious Irish legends and all of the could you imagine Michael Fassbender and all of these people playing
That's Queen McCool, kicking the bejesus out of a couple of
having Saoirse Ronan as Queen Maeve.
But the one thing I've learned the most this year and last year, the most important thing is if you can control it, whatever crew you have on set, make sure you're 100% comfortable around them, because I've been around people certain crew on things that have just made me uncomfortable. I just don't have the positive attitude, and I just hate that. Take your negativity and bring it somewhere else. So I'll always look for the most positive people I can, and I have a certain.
I have no hope then, none whatsoever. I mean, total negative, pessimistic up.
Well, we for one last goodbye, I said it to Stephen. I'm letting him direct it by himself because I don't want to be pulled out of the moment. I said to him, the one rule I have for this, if we're going to make this, is that you have everyone that we're both 100% comfortable around.
I think that's what people forget is how mentally and physically overwhelming it is just to finish a 90-page script. And I think that's why when someone finishes even one draft of a 90-page script, someone, if they post it in a group, everyone will be like, oh my God, fair play, that's brilliant. You got one draft done. It's such an achievement, because people don't realize unless you've tried to write a 90-page script how hard it is, you know.
Across people as you're learning all of these different things. So people saying you have to specialize in one thing, then you're only going to meet a particular group of people. Like I've met camera operators, I've met people in like camera rental houses that I never would have met. You know, engineers like Nelson Tyler, who creates all of the big massive gyros that go on the front of helicopters and stuff. And his wife was Kubrick's Steadicam operator. I mean, like the people that you come across as you're pursuing whatever your dream is.
Yeah.
That's what's important.
This is the second podcast I've been on. I've one more coming up next week. And for some reason in the last while, I've been asked to come on podcasts. And it's just something different. And again, like I come back to about life, doing what you can while you enjoy it as best as you can, but variety. And you guys are great. This is variety. This is a lot of variety in this show.
This is Panto on steroids. This is
Panto on steroids. Yes. We often have the props as well. The helmet I put on.
No, seriously. I mean, it's been like I feel like I've been interrogated, life coached, praised.
Ripped a new one.
Challenged all in one go. It's been good fun.
10,000 years from now, when you have these 200 episodes of 52 Jokers Wild, you were one of those individuals.
And the thing is, and I think the very, very interesting point is that you don't know where your next opportunity is going to come from.
That's it.
That is why you have to have as many irons in the fire as you possibly can. That is why you have to network with as many people. And that is why everybody should remember you as wonderful to work with.
Hope you enjoyed this video. Please subscribe and click on the bell for notifications.